From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 podcast, powered by National Scouting Report. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 podcast, powered by our proud partners, National Scouting Report, NSR. They are the world's leading authority on all athletic recruiting. You can get more information on what they're about on their social media, on Twitter at NSR Now, as well as on Instagram at NSR_now, as well as on their website at nsr-inc.com. All right, my next guest, he joins us currently fresh off the pitch, currently at the University of Virginia summer ID camp, right? He is Coach Andrew Green, the head, I should say the associate head women's soccer coach of the VMI Keydets. Coach, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, clearly fresh off the pitch. Yeah, was really grateful to put on a pair of slides and just sit down for a bit. So yeah, really excited.
Very fresh. I can still smell the grass on you, man. That sounds great. So, so how's the camping going the last couple of days? I know you've been jobbing in, right? Currently at University of Virginia. Tell us what's that summer been like a little bit.
Yeah, as a college coach, it's a little bit of working camps and a little bit of recruiting, being on the road quite a bit. And some of our camps, I like working, even though I get working with some of the younger players. I get to see coaches that I don't see during the year. We all seem to work quite a few camps together. And, this past weekend being at Virginia Tech and seeing a lot of coaches that I haven't seen in quite a while. So it's always a good time, networking and seeing friends and obviously getting to coach a bit and getting able to be on the field, especially during the summer where as a college coach, your time on the field is a little limited. So it's always good to, being able to try new things and try them with different players and being able to recruit a little bit. So yeah, getting to the tail end of it. So ready for preseason to start soon though.
Yeah, I bet. I can only imagine. So, big one in the room, big elephant in the room, I guess, whatever we want to call it right now. Got to talk about it right on a soccer podcast. FIFA Women's World Cup just kicked off. Thoughts on it so far? How much have you had a chance to see? I know it messes with everyone's sleeping cycle for sure. Thoughts on the U.S. women's national team's match last night and any other matches you've seen so far?
Yeah, it seems one of the continuing themes in the World Cup is missed penalties so far. There's been quite a few so far. But yeah, obviously the time difference doesn't help. It kind of reminds me of back in 2010 when South Africa World Cup and, everyone's getting up super late or super early to watch games. And but yeah, the women last night, it kind of seemed a lack of like a killer instinct almost. It kind of seemed like we were playing and, just trying to have that killer instinct to get them behind and kind of put the game away pretty early. I don't know if it was, just traveling across the world and finally getting able to be on that stage. And, we're also, Trinity Rodman's first World Cup, Sophia Smith's first World Cup, half of our midfield's first World Cup, except for Lindsay Horan last night and there's Lavelle. So, and obviously a new coach as well for this World Cup cycle. I think it was going to take a little bit of feeling it out and getting a little comfortable, but I think going forward, I think there should be some of those kinks worked out. And obviously in that first game where you're not playing against a Holland or a Portugal or something like that, you can kind of try and experiment a little bit. But yeah, I'm super excited. I have a lot of DVR games on my YouTube TV to watch. A girl that I used to coach actually at one point in their youth stage is on the Haiti national team, one of the goalkeepers. So I have a little bit of a personal following this year. So yeah, it'll be really excited.
That was speaking of Haiti, that was a kind of a surprising result, right? Overnight
Yeah,
with England. Um, I I know some people I spoke with this morning, they were like, yeah, maybe I don't feel so bad about the US the US performance now yesterday. Yeah, you
yeah,
talk about the US, you talk about the US women's team, and my take on it, it was interesting just because my take on it, like many, I just kind of, it seemed like, I don't know how to describe it. It seemed very much just out of sorts, right? It just seemed, and I don't know if it was Vlatko's just kind of experimental starting 11 or
yeah.
what it was, but it seemed very much just lacking chemistry,
Yeah.
and who knows how much of it is too is, you mentioned the number of new players as well as, and then some of the key injuries, right? That so this
Mhm.
team kind of still sorting itself out very much. So it was interesting to watch them um,
Yeah.
look the way they looked, right? As far, and you talk about a, what was it? I think a 20. I saw two different figures. I saw a 28-1 uh, shot ratio, right, versus Vietnam, and then I saw a 28-0. So to put up 3 points or 3 goals, I should say, with those kind of numbers, when you have Alex Morgan, yes, Trinity Rodman in her first, and we know what Sophia Smith did last night, but
Mhm.
that does kind of make you, you can't go into it and say, yes, we got the 3 points, but we clearly got some stuff to work out on, to work on, I should say. And then for me personally, I thought the real immediate impact difference playmaker, off the bench was Rose Lavelle. I mean,
Yeah.
just you're just scratching your head. It's like, well, why? And I get it. It's Vietnam. Maybe coach is trying to figure out some things, save some legs. But yeah, I mean, that's probably a totally different game from the start with Rose Lavelle on the starting.
Yeah, and it was good to see her and Alyssa Thompson come off the bench and kind of make an immediate impact. And someone who just wanted to get the ball and drive and go at players. And there wasn't really a hesitation with those two players, and you could kind of see, going into the first half and a little bit, and as you score a goal, you get a little bit more comfortable. You really didn't see, that kind of killer instinct to just, like last World Cup, where in our first game, 13-0, and Jill Ellis is saying, how it's part of soccer, right? We're not going to
Right.
just play down to our opponents like that.
Right.
And this year it's kind of like, obviously different coach, new players, but it's kind of just finding what is going to take that kind of killer instinct. Because as you get later on in the tournament, you're going to have to find a little bit of rhythm, and finding the back of the net really early is always good for any sort of striker. So,
Yeah.
um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it'll certainly be interesting
Yeah.
going forward.
And shout out to one of our supporters here in Ken Murphy, from Ken Murphy Photography, talking about one of his clients. Yes, Bella. I don't know that. I'm assuming that's pronounced Pasión, but making one of the alternates on that story on the Philippine team is pretty interesting. Have you had a chance to read up on that yet?
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Been a little busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they have, I think, 18 American citizens on that team
Wow.
for the Philippines. Yeah,
Okay.
pretty pretty interesting, pretty great stuff. Um, Thoughts on who's? I know what my answer is, but I'll ask you first. Thoughts on who's impressed you from what either you've seen, highlights, what you've gathered. Who's impressed you? Which country has impressed you the most so far?
Um, you know, watching a little bit of Denmark this morning, there was something there.
Hmm.
It's a little bit of a different one. England this morning, I wish I saw more. Um, but I think watching Denmark right now, like there is something there. There's something that could kind of be a dark horse going forward.
Yeah, yeah. I have not had a chance to see that one yet, so I got that one.
Yeah.
Speaking of DVR, I got that one recorded. For me, so far, it's been Spain.
Yeah.
They just like, wow, like they kind of came out quick, 3-0, couldn't stop scoring, and then just kind of
Yeah.
coasted. We're able to just kind of rest some legs. So we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. But yeah, I think you talk about dark horses. One of the teams whose performance I've been most impressed with so far has been, our good friend of the podcast, the fellow 50/50 podcast alum, and Randy Waldrum,
Yeah.
coach for Nigeria. So yeah, been very impressed there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so but enough on the World Cup front. So we're here to talk about you and your program, coach.
Yeah.
So you're going into your third year. Did I get that right? Third year there at
Correct.
VMI,
Yeah.
and then you got the nod. You got the promotion to associate head. in this past January. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Talk to us briefly, right? Some people, because I get this question every now and then from parents in particular, associate head associate head coach. How do you explain that? Because I know you get the question, right? Associate. What does that mean? What do you do? What changes? Blah, 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 blah. What
Yeah.
is in your case? What does that mean?
Yeah, the way that we kind of term it, when my boss Chris gave me the promotion, it was kind of, there's a manager and a first team coach type person. Like if you look at a Premier League level, like there's going to be, he wants to take all of the the big stuff, the umbrellas, kind of oversee it from the top. And if there's a training session, he wants me running, 70% of it, so he can kind of be the eyes and ears of what's going on and catch the little details that we're missing. Um, that's kind of the biggest training perspective, and I think, we've had such a good rapport between the two of us when it comes to recruiting and playing that, he kind of just sees me as his right hand man almost. And he jokes around a little bit that it's more of like a chief of staff type of
Oh, nice.
promotion. So,
That's a good one. I hadn't heard one quite like. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah.
so sometimes I like it. Sometimes, chief of staff is the most stressful position
Right.
there is, but
Yeah.
yeah, just a lot of things fall under my umbrella when it comes to just, I've had a big say now in what our playing model looks like, our playing styles. When it comes to recruiting stuff, before as the first just an assistant coach, we had different roles, and my big responsibility was as a recruiting coordinator. So that still falls under me because it's one of the best things that I love to do about being a college coach. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm very appreciative of Chris. He's been very good to me, very good to me and my family. And yeah, it's just something that kind of helps me as I progress along my coaching journey. Obviously I have an end goal to be a head coach, and, and when you get a little bit more responsibility and get a little bit more say on a program, right? That's how you kind of find your coaching voice, find your coaching style, find how I want to do things as well. And that's really how that promotion has kind of worked. It's been, we always joke around a little bit, because I'm someone that I want to take a lot of things on my plate and sometimes at a fault. But it's always something that just how I am, I want to have hands-on on things. So
Right.
yeah, it's been
Yeah.
great since that moment. Nothing super big has changed, but it's definitely been a little bit more responsibility.
Yeah. Great. So, you talk about the ambition to have your program hopefully one day, right? But tell us a little bit, where else have you been prior to going on your 3 years here at VMI? Give us a little bit of background on you.
Yeah. So I originally grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So a little far from Virginia. Played soccer, played high school, played club, did all that good stuff down there. When my recruiting process came, I really didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted to do in school. I just knew that I wanted to play at some point, as most guys do, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So I went to a junior college for a year in Florida, and then kind of figured out my next step. And I went to Olivet College in Michigan, which is a small Division III school. And towards the end of my playing career, I kind of realized that coaching was kind of the next step. It's just the type of person that I was. And um, leaving while I was playing at Olivet, I picked up a high school team that was in the area. They just asked if I could. I just asked if I could volunteer. Right? Can I just come to sessions when I can? Can I just help whatever I can? After one season with the boys and girls, they handed me the varsity head coaching job the next fall. So
Nice.
yeah, so it kind of I, and at that point, as a first year coach, like I was doing things that our coach did with us in training at the college level. Like I really had no idea what kind of coach I wanted to be. I had a very small idea, but
Right.
um, so after that, I graduated. I took on a position at Western Carolina University on the women's side. Was there for 2 years, and then moved back up to Michigan and was at Western Michigan for a year. Um, and then for a while being on the women's side, I kind of wanted to go to the men's side for a little bit. I didn't know why. I just felt like that being a younger male coach, I thought that I would be a little bit better on the men's side. I found out very quickly I wasn't after 3 years. That just didn't fit my personality. I was back in my alma mater for 2 years, and I was at a small school in our conference, Albion College, for 2 years,
Okay.
or for a year, sorry.
Yeah.
And then I had known my boss Chris here from afar for a little bit, and I think I got a cryptic text from him one day, and he just said like, "Hey, both of my assistants are leaving. Do you know anyone who's interested in the job or who would be interested?" And I could kind of read through the cryptic text there for a minute, and I said, "Hey, and I like absolutely, I'd be interested." And so interviewed, came up here,
All right.
love the area, love Lexington, and have been here since now. So yeah, I'm going into year 3 here at VMI and year 10 in college coaching.
Gotcha. Awesome. And we'll dive into more about the program and
Yeah.
your institution more in a minute. But so we look at you look back at 2022, right? The
Mhm.
fall season. Biggest lessons learned, biggest takeaways coming out of that fall season last year.
Yeah. We were a very young team. Last year, we had 3 seniors on our roster and 6 juniors out of a roster of 30 players. So 21 players were underclassmen, and a lot of them hadn't seen the field hardly ever. Or, when we looked at our starting 11, right, at times, there was maybe a combined 15 games played between our whole starting 11. And obviously, in a college career, you can roughly play about 80 games. So we were inexperienced, and obviously, we can't use that as an excuse. But I think this year, we definitely took our lumps quite a bit, and we found out that in college soccer, it's the lapses that kill you, right? You can play great for 80, you can play great for 85. It's that 5-10 minutes of just lapsing for that long that absolutely kills you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as a coach, there was a lot of frustrations, right? You feel like you're doing a lot of things right and you're not getting the results. That I think what we kind of found out is that as we went forward, right, we started to continue to grow, and we just bought into the fact that we're going to continue to grow these players, and we're going to continue to grow our playing style right now. And I think as we went forward and as we kind of finished this spring in the 2023 spring, we changed a couple tactical things, and I think we kind of found that as we changed a little bit of our identity and kind of went to more of a blue collar mentality, right? I think we found that that's what's going to work for us. And when we ended the spring, this fall, I thought we were playing some of the best soccer that we played in 3 years. We were pressing teams, we were getting in behind, we were creating opportunities. So yeah, I think for lack of better words, right? I think this year kind of helped us identify how we want to play and how we need to play to make this team be successful. And I think that our players grew immensely. I think when you face the adversity that you face, not only at a military school but at having that on the field as well, right? You're only going to grow into better people and better athletes,
Right.
and I think that that's something that really gets us excited going into this fall.
Awesome. And one of the reasons why I was so looking, you and I obviously we spoke offline a good bit.
Mhm.
One of the reasons why I was personally excited to have you on is we come from similar worlds, similar backgrounds. Me having been having been at the Air Force Academy as well, so I know what you're dealing with, what you're up against,
Right.
the how you have to work. Not gonna say work around, but work through things, right? It's just a different animal, right? So tell us a little bit for our listeners, right out there. They may not know much. They may know about the service academies,
Mhm.
but then they hear, VMI, and they just kind of they zoom in on the military word, and that's really all they think they know, but they don't really know. What's Tell us a little bit about the uniqueness of coaching and maybe even attending a place like VMI. What sets it apart?
Yeah. So obviously, the service academies are um, to a point where you are required to commission to the military after graduation. At VMI, it is not required. Obviously, we do have quite a large population that will commission to the military, but it's something where you get the option to decide if that's something that fits um, your life plan, right? So, we have on our team right now, we're probably about 50-50 commissioning, non-commissioning. And obviously, VMI is a full military institute, right? They wear uniforms to school, they do ROTC training. Um, there is kind of a basic training type of mentality with the rat line as a freshman. Um, so I think like obviously one of the key differences for us is the commissioning piece, right? So um, and at VMI you can commission to any branch of the military. So while you go to a service academy, you're kind of like for instance, you go to West Point, you're going to the Army, you're kind of picking which job in the Army suits what you want to do, right? At VMI, you can broaden your horizons a little bit and pick which branch to commission to. So
Great.
it kind of, I think our players really like the flexibility that comes with that. Obviously, being able to choose, but also being
Mhm.
able to choose to commission or not commission. Because we have, I in the 3 years that I've recruited at VMI, we've had players who have come in very gung ho on commissioning. This is what I want to do. They find out by their junior year that's not really for me, and it's not something where you have to leave the school like one of the academies. And then obviously we have the complete opposite of that, where it's like, hey, I really don't want much to do with this. I like the environment, I like the structure, but I don't really want to commission. And then by year three, you find out that they're commissioning. Um, so yeah, coaching at VMI, it definitely keeps you on your toes. Trying to figure out, there's things that pop up all the time, and being a coach, like there are times where I don't know that our players were up at 5 a.m. Marching, or were up late last night doing a sweat party, which is basically like a hit workout.
Right.
So yeah, it definitely keeps me on my toes. It's definitely made me to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D, for things when things happen.
Yeah.
But I think being here and being at VMI, like we get some incredible human beings that are going to do some incredible things in life. So I think being in that environment, being around those people, and being around people who are so disciplined and committed and wanting to do this for the rest of their life, but also wanting to play soccer as well. Like it's definitely something where, as a coach, there's obviously some things that are a little frustrating, but obviously there are some problems that coaches at state schools have that I will never have at VMI.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely a unique experience, and I think it's certainly made me a better coach just because I am always on my toes and I am never sticking to just plan A. I'm always ready for what's going to pop up next.
Yeah. Absolutely. You got to be flexible, especially at a at a military institution. Most common misconception about VMI, I guess what you come across in speaking with people, questions you get asked. What's maybe the most common misconception about VMI?
Hmm. Probably that you're going into the military after graduation. I think a lot of people, especially in the recruiting world, we've kind of had to go out, and obviously we can't just sit in Virginia and recruit Virginia's backyard. We have to be a national brand and kind of go out and find players all over the country just to find these certain kinds of individuals. So
Right.
as we've kind of gotten our name out to the world, to the rest of the country, and even internationally, because we do have one international student, we've kind of realized that, they look at it and they're like, yeah, the military is not for me. And I just have to say, like, listen, like, this is an environment where even if you don't go to the military, you're going to walk out of VMI making an incredible salary right away, because VMI alums want to hire VMI cadets. They want to hire them right after they graduate, and you're going to walk out making an incredible salary. And we talk to our recruits and our kids quite a bit about the delayed gratification of that, right? This is going to be an intense 4 years. It's going to fly by a bit, but it's going to set you up for the next 40 years of your life. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the biggest one. And, I think the other biggest misconception is, surprisingly, a lot of people don't know that we're a Division I school, and we are, and we play in a very competitive conference.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, while everything of this is great, we have to be prepared to play the Sanfords and the Furmans and the Mercers of the world every week. So
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So, you talked about your when you first arrived to now, right? What's changed the most? What's been maybe the biggest single change from when you got there year one to now going into year three? Single biggest change.
yeah, our conference has, at one point our conference was, you could kind of see the top half and you could kind of see the bottom half. Those two places have kind of gone squish in the middle.
to the parity.
Yeah, everyone has become competitive. This year, a team like Chattanooga that came in the bottom four in 21 won the conference in 22. So, I mean, it's definitely made that, and, for us as a program, I think, we had a team in 21 that was a little bit more driven towards being ball playing players, right? We kind of realized that at times we're not going to out athlete teams. We're going to have to out soccer teams to be successful. And I think we've come to realize in the college landscape that you need a good mix of both.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, you need to be athletic at times, certain spaces, and you need to have really good soccer players in certain spaces.
Mhm.
So we've kind of shifted our recruiting a little bit towards finding really good athletic soccer players, right? And we've kind of become a little bit more, I don't want to say picky, but a little bit more selective of what our player pool looks like. And I think as we've kind of progressed towards that playing model and, looking to press teams and looking to, once we win it, get the ball down and play and kind of play this kind of like a direct possession, right? We look to play the first ball forward every time, right? And then from there, can we get it up to our playmakers and they can make a decision from there? So it's kind of giving a little bit of creative freedom, but we know that as we win the ball, we want to get the ball forward, right?
Right.
This game's about scoring goals, unfortunately. So get the ball forward and try and play. So yeah, it's something that we've worked hard towards, and I think we looked at our 22 and 23 classes that have come in here, and they've been quite good, and we've have quite a good pool right now for 24 and 25. So I think it'll be heading in the right direction.
Yeah, you talk about the athleticism and tactical skill, or technical skill, I should say, as well as thorough tactical understanding.
Mhm.
You got to have that cross pollination, obviously, especially at the D1 level. But the other piece too that goes with that, especially at the D1 level, is the depth of that blend. Right, you got to have
Yeah,
some significant blend because it's a grind. It's a grind, no doubt.
yeah.
Um, thoughts on the upcoming fall season?
Yeah, we're really excited. I think, like I said, as we kind of progressed through 22 and ended the spring, right, we ended in a place where we changed our defensive structure. We changed a little bit of our attacking mindset. And, we kind of got to a point where instead of just being a possession based team, we were looking to be dangerous and behind and win the ball back high up the field, right? And our 23 class that's coming in, we're really excited about. There's players from all over the country. We went as far as Washington State and Portland Thorns Academy to get a player, and as close as home as Northern Virginia. So we went anywhere and everywhere. And we do have a couple of players on our roster from the state of Texas. So and
There you go.
another one coming in this year. So I think the mix of the returning players that really bought into the spring, and the progression that was made in the spring with a lot of those players, and our culture kind of went in a completely different, great direction in the spring, right? And obviously, when the way our 22 season went, it's really easy for the culture to fall apart. Um, and to build that back up in the spring and to get back to where we want to go and bring in 11 great players from 11 great clubs that are going to help impact us as well, and to return the players that we return. I'm very excited. I think looking at our preseason setup, we were planning some sessions earlier, my boss and I, and we look at it and it's just like, I think we're going to be at a point where we have that variety and depth to kind of, when teams are going to sit in against us, we're going to have
Mhm.
the soccer players that can break those lines and get in behind. If a team wants to turn into a track meet, we have some of those athletes that can keep up with those players. So I think, and obviously as the college landscape kind of looks, right, it's a little different now with the transfer portal, but every 3-4 years, you're kind of retooling what your team looks like and what your playing style looks like, depending on who stays, who goes, and things
Right.
like that. Then, knock on wood for us, we don't really lose players to the transfer portal. As we continue to return these players, I think it'll be quite a good little core that we're going to put together.
Great. Yeah, and from so many, you hit on so many great things here. But tell us, kind of, let us peek behind the curtains here. Obviously, you're not on campus right now, but you all get started coaching a little over a week, right? So tell us, what does that look like over the next 7 to 10 days, as far as for you, the transition back to campus,
Yeah.
getting ready, training sessions on day one. What does that look like over maybe the next 7 to 10 days?
Yeah, a lot of office hours. Uh, get it, get in the office and kind of, we'll nail down our first. We've kind of nailed down the topics for the first bit of preseason, but now we will kind of look to nail down the actual training sessions, right? As we get back on campus, it's getting, the logistical things ready, getting ready for our players to move in. Our players will, a lot of our out of state players will come in the day before move in, so they'll
Which
be
is when?
ready.
Is that any day now? That's
That
on
is next Sunday, a week
next
from
Sunday.
tomorrow. So
Gotcha.
it's a little bit of an early start this year.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever started in July as a college coach. So, but yeah, as we start to get ready, it's kind of tooling some of those things where we've kind of put together a playing model through the whole how we want to do things, but we've also put together our periodization chart, which basically says this is the session, this is the intensity. So we're kind of at a point where we do have our GPS monitors that kind of looks at that as well. So we'll know what our team looks like after every
Mhm.
session. But um, when we plan that, right, it's kind of planning to a point like we say that we're not a group that wants to run, 3 weeks of two-a-days, right? And because as we get to our first game, our team's going to be completely shot. So it's kind of mixing in which days are double sessions, on the field. Are some of those double session days a classroom session where we're going over tactics or watching, training film, or, looking at expectations for the fall, doing a team activity. So it's kind of planning, what those next 3 weeks kind of look like. And, as we get ready for our first exhibition on the 12th, I think we're kind of just prepping for what we kind of take our exhibitions as, what do we need to improve on for game number one of the regular season.
Yeah.
I realize 12 days in, we're not going to have it all figured out.
Right.
So it's kind of just saying, what do we need to improve on? It's kind of like saying, play someone here, break us down so I can figure out where I need to build us back up for game one.
Gotcha.
So
And man, that's quick. August 12th. Wow. And that's who's that against again?
we'll go to Virginia Beach to play Wilman Mary.
Gotcha. Awesome. Um, so yeah, I mean that's a lot of moving parts in a short time frame. So you mentioned something there, and I thought, so for some of our listeners, right, or maybe freshmen who are about to do this, or
Mhm.
maybe they're a year out, right? They're 2024s. Tips for tips for incoming freshmen as it pertains to literally moving, right? As to who knows, right? From, hey, what do I bring? Obviously, every school is slightly different, but
Yeah.
just general things to bring, what to expect, and then of course those first handful of training sessions where they kind of get the culture shock.
Yeah, yeah. I think the biggest tip is if you can get the phone numbers of your upperclassmen to figure out what to bring and what not to bring, they will let you know so you don't buy that whole school sheet. Um, but
That's why I ask. Yeah, yeah, good point. Yeah.
yeah, so soccer wise, I think I tell most of our committed kids right now, and most of the players that we're looking at, right. The biggest thing that you can control coming into preseason is your fitness. Because if you're chasing your fitness coming into preseason, you're kind of setting yourself even further and further back. So if you can, we always tell our freshmen, like, listen, we realize you're not going to come in 100% fit, ready to go. Now, if you find a way to get yourself to 85% by first game, I'm going to get you to 95% fitness in just preseason. And plus, it's going to keep you out of the training room. Plus, it's going to keep you out of being injured and not being able to participate in training. Um, I think soccer wise, I think a lot of freshmen are in for a little bit of a wake up call. A little bit, you go from being one of the best players on your club team or in your high school team, and you won this accolade, won out this accolade, to then playing against 18 to 22, 23, even 24-year-old women right now, right? You're playing against someone who has done this for a year to even 4 years. So, I think the biggest thing is to find your way and not try to chase what that person who's been here 4 years already, right? It's trying to make your own impact. And, year one, that could be I made an impact off the bench, or I made an impact in training by making sure that our starting 11 was as prepared as possible. And that's kind of just being that team player type of thing. But yeah, I think fitness is kind of the biggest thing, and I know a lot of people harp on it, and it kind of seems like a little bit of a cop out answer, but
It's true. So true, though.
but
That's so
yeah,
true.
it's more than just being able to compete. It's just keeping yourself healthy, right? It's trying to keep yourself out of that training room and not being the person that's standing chasing balls and being the person that's hitting them in the back of the net.
Right, right.
So.
Yeah. What if you can isolate and pick just one thing more above everything else? What has you the most excited about the upcoming 2023 fall season?
Yeah, yeah, I think I'm really excited about our schedule, right? I think last year we played a couple really cool road trips where we went to Pittsburgh and New York City, but I think this year the teams that are coming to us, we're playing some good competition, and I think our girls are up for it. I think there's been a point where we talk about you know to be the hunted, you have to be the hunter, right? So this year, like, we are going to be hunting after teams, right? And we're going to have to put in a full effort every 90 minutes to get results. So yeah, like I said, I think the personnel that we're returning are coming back, right? Like, we went from a team last year that barely had any experience to, our whole team has a minimum of 25 games played, which
Okay.
is a big deal because the college soccer game
Absolutely.
is far different than any other game in the country, right? The subbing patterns, the styles of play, right? Uh, so if you have that experience right away, and I realize nowadays with the transfer portal, you can kind of get that immediately if you want. But and like I said, I think our 23 classes, like I said, there's some really great individual human beings, and there's some really good soccer players too. So I think they're going to continue to raise the floor and kind of get that to a point where we're getting closer to our ceiling. And the depth that we're going to have on our team this year is going to be something that makes us able to compete for 90 minutes instead of having those lapses, for 15 minutes.
Gotcha. All right, next one here I got for you is this one is I love asking this one, but it's going to put you on the spot on this one. Very loaded
Sure.
question, right? So the 2023 VMI women's soccer season will be finish this sentence. The 2023 VMI women's soccer season will be a success if
Oof. Um, I think it will certainly be a success if we reach our potential. I think we can sit here and talk the talk, and I know our girls are excited to come back and to make an impact. But I think if we reach our potential and we find our playing style and we find our identity, and we realize that being at a military institute, we are a little blue collar innately, and we're going to have to outwork teams. I think we're going to reach our potential and find quite a bit of success, right? And obviously being in our tough conference, and a lot of military institutes, or a lot of military schools, there is kind of the stigma that there's not a whole lot of success there. I think we can kind of change that stigma if we kind of find that range where we are changing those lapses of 10, 15 minutes to, what, hey, we played bad for 3 minutes, right? Not that everything's going to go perfect in 90 minutes, but those 3 minutes, we didn't have our best 3 minutes, but for 87 minutes we were really, really good.
awesome. Well said. Well
So,
said. I like that. Again, he is Andrew Green, the associate head women's soccer coach of the VMI Keydets. Coach, next question here for you. Got a couple more as we start
yeah.
transitioning here. You mentioned the portal earlier, and you're kind of in a very unique position, especially at the D1 level, where
Yeah.
yes, it's in play, but but not really, really, right there at VMI. We talk about the game, right? The state of the women's soccer game, and this is kind of overarching, right? As far as from club and high school to the college game, really in those parameters. Just what are your thoughts on that in terms of just what you're seeing recruiting front, high school soccer, whatever? This is kind of pretty broad question, but
Yeah.
the state of the game at those two key levels really that feed the college soccer game and then the college soccer game itself. What are your thoughts on the state of the game right now?
Yeah, obviously there are some negatives to some of those things, but I think overall as a whole, compared to where it was 10 years ago when I started coaching, right? I think, the accessibility to women's soccer,
Mm,
the amount of college coaches that are going to showcases and that are going to not just ECNL, GA, we go to regional league, we go to the USYS, we go to Jefferson Cup, we go to NCFC, right? We go where there's players. So I think I'm a big believer, and I know our staff is here, of the no stone unturned type of mentality, right? I'm not just going to go sit at
absolutely.
the two biggest leagues and just sit there and hope I land players, right? And I think that's why some players get overlooked. But I think the accessibility of women's soccer nowadays, 10 years ago, a women's soccer game being on TV was far fetched. And now, ESPN Plus, you can watch every single college soccer game every night.
Yeah.
So, obviously that, obviously the recruiting fronts, there's no perfect formula for it. But like I said, the accessibility, the amount of coaches that are going to these showcases, the amount of opportunities for student athletes to get recruited has probably been at an all-time high. Like, obviously, like I said, there are some negatives, there are some horror stories to recruiting. But I think compared to where it was 10 years ago, right, and the amount of colleges that have women's soccer today, not just Division One, Division Two, Division
Right.
Three, NAIA, JUCO, the amount of opportunities to play are there, right? I think what student athletes have to realize is that you can't, if you have the Division One or bust mentality, right, then those opportunities aren't going to be there if that's what you think. So, but yeah, I think like obviously the state of the game right now, I think women's soccer is at a point where, especially at the college level, you look at the amount of collegiate athletes that are playing in the Women's World Cup right now. There's a couple at Haiti, there's a couple at some of the smaller countries, but yeah, there's a girl that's playing for Jamaica as well. That's a collegiate athlete right
Hmm.
now. So the opportunities are there, and as the way the NWSL continues to grow, and USLW, and the opportunities to play past college are even they're getting quite a bit larger.
Right.
So yeah, and kind of looking at the transfer portal type situation, you can love it or hate it. The way that I look at it is my responsibility. If I recruited you, I'm responsible to coach you for 4 years. If you don't like your surroundings, yeah, absolutely. If there's something that you need to take that, but I would, for me, I would never ask the kid to go to the portal or, tell them, this is the best interest for you. Like if I recruited you, I'm responsible for coaching you for 4 years.
Right.
So yeah, and there's good and drawbacks to it. There's good things and
Mhm.
there's some drawbacks. And, I think some schools use it great. The grad transfer rule now, absolutely. If you can play for another year and, continue a degree, absolutely,
Yeah.
um, I'm actually helping one of our current seniors right now who's going to look to play a year after this year because she is interested in that too. Absolutely. If you can play another year, right, and you can start a graduate degree, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's some obviously horror stories across women's soccer, but I think the state of the game as itself is probably one of the best it's ever been. But obviously, there's always continuing room to grow.
Right. So I got to ask you here, right? So as you come across, not just through the recruiting front on the club side, but maybe even through social media on the high school side, what comes across your radar as it pertains to just Texas soccer, right? At the high school level, club level, what do you know? What do you see? Anything?
A lot of good soccer. Lots of good soccer, whether it's on the club level or whether it's on the high school level. You know, and I know this. I've started to hit it a little harder now because one of our soon to be sophomores and an incoming freshman, both are from Southlake, so they both went to Southlake
Mm,
Carroll.
mhm,
So so, and I think looking at our roster, we have a girl coming in from Albion Hurricanes, Solar. We have a Dallas Texans on our roster. We kind of hit that state hard just because there is quite a lot of good players, and on social media, there's these girls do a really good job of marketing themselves,
yeah,
and I think that's one of the best things that you can do with social media is use it to market yourself. And put your tape out there. Tag coaches. I love when I get tagged in the post. Hey, check out my highlight video. Yeah. You know.
right.
So yeah, I mean, there's a. I look at the. I was just recruiting at the ECNL finals because it's right in our backyard in Richmond.
Mhm,
I think Solar had a team in almost every age bracket, and then when I watched the regional league stuff, FC Dallas had a team in 3 age brackets in the final 8 in the country. So it's kind of hard to ignore that when
right.
there's quite a few good teams. And we've had some really great individuals come from Texas too. Some really humble people, some people who want to work hard and are really great in the classroom. And I think it's something that I'm going to continue to hit pretty hard in the state of Texas. Is if you're interested in our kind of environment, absolutely. Like I want to have a chat with you.
Yeah, great stuff. Um, no, it's probably safe to say most people would agree on this that from 2016, 2017 to 2021, excuse me, in that time frame. So in about a 4, maybe 5-year period, the college athletics really as a whole, but here specifically college soccer, right? You saw probably the biggest transformations in terms of the history of athletics, right? In terms of we talked about the introduction of the transfer portal, then the pandemic and the super seniors period, and then as well as NIL, right?
Yeah.
What, when you look at all of that, the landscape on top of everything we've discussed, what do you see as maybe that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Right now, currently that we're kind of navigating through. But what do you see as the biggest change coming to the college game in the next 5 years?
I
Give me
kind of hope.
your crystal ball there, right?
Yeah, I kind of hope selfishly it's the year-round model.
Mhm.
I know it's been proposed on the men's side quite a bit. I think at times when our conference finally switched to playing Thursday Sunday games. For a while we were playing Friday Sunday, um, and
You're
we're
playing what
playing
again now? You're playing what again now?
this summer or this fall. We'll play on Thursday Sunday, and
Thursday, Sunday.
last year we played Friday Sunday. So in that Friday Sunday model, which was a model for a very long time, you're talking about playing on Friday at 7 p.m.
It's
and then
brutal.
playing
Yeah.
Sunday at mid-afternoon.
Yeah.
We're not even talking 48 hours recovery. And in that dual model, right, and in that kind of college week period, right, you're really only truly training once or twice. Like, you have a pregame session, you have a recovery session the day after a game, a day off. We're kind of leaving, 1 to 2 true sessions. So the teaching aspect of college soccer, at times in the fall really isn't there. That's why we use our spring as such a development time, right?
Right.
We play
Right.
5 scrimmages; they really don't matter. And at that point, we're just trying to develop our players the best we can. In the year-round model, right, you'll be able to play once a week. You'll be able to give true days off. You'll be able to give true recovery. You'll be able to kind of be on that almost professional model of where you're playing on a Sunday, you recover, do an active recovery Monday, you off Tuesday, and then you're finally back training on Wednesday. And then we still have 2 training sessions before we can ramp you down again. So I think that year-round model, I know it's been pushed on by a couple Power 5 schools, and I know without me being the having the background on it, I don't know what resources and financially it'll look like. But I think if we can kind of look towards that year-round model, I think it'll be the best thing for our student athletes. at least like, health wise. You look at the amount of knee injuries that are in women's soccer. Those a
Mhm.
lot of those are overuse.
Yeah.
Like, so I think the more that we can kind of look at that year round model, I hope that's something that comes at, selfishly, as much as I love recruiting in the spring and at the end of our season, right? I want to be on the field. That's the best part of coaching, is being on the field with your team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's something that I hope will come.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough one, right? It's a tough one in terms of, yeah. So, um, great stuff. He is Andrew Green, the associate head women's soccer coach of the VMI Cadets. As we start to transition here, Coach, we're going to go ahead and tell you about some of our partners here. We'll tell you first about our partners at Gipper. So, Gipper is the way schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 2,500 coaches, ADs, and programs that use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part, anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. And just for being a listener of the 50/50 podcast, you're going to instantly save 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. All you got to do is go to gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050 to get your 10% savings on any annual plan. And our other proud partners, we just got to see them this week at the Texas High School Coaches Association convention in Houston. Got to see both of these actually, but had a chance to chat with our good friend Kyle, as well as the owner Bill Christian, our good friends at Global Scarves. Global Scarves is the top provider of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully custom with free design services and free shipping on all orders. That's pretty remarkable stuff, right? You can contact them for more information at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built up for your school or program. Again, you can contact them at info@globalscarves.com and just mention to them the 50/50 podcast or use the code hashtag 50/50pod, and they'll be sure to take care of you. So great stuff. All right, Coach, it is about that time. We're going to transition here. Counterattack. This is where we get to have some fun with you, ask you some completely random, off the wall questions. You ready to go?
Always. Let's do it.
All right. And a big shout out. Thank you again, Ken, for your support and for listening to us. We really appreciate you. Big fan of your work as well, Ken. Thank you. All right. First question right out of the gate. You got to support one, despise one, and invest in one of these clubs. Okay.
Oh,
So
Lord.
Wrexham, Sunderland, and AFC Richmond. What are you doing?
So it was support, despise, and invest.
Yeah. Support,
Right.
support, hate. Hate is a strong word, obviously. Despise, but not a fan of, right? And invest in one, like literally invest in one. What are you doing?
All right. I'm supporting AFC Richmond. Ted Lasso is one of my favorite shows so far. um, I'll invest in Wrexham the way they're going, and unfortunately, my other clubs in the north of England as well. So I'll despise Sunderland.
Yeah. You a Newcastle guy?
No, a little lower.
Oh,
Manchester United, unfortunately.
oh my God. This concludes the podcast. Thank you. Oh my God. What is it? You these Manchester United people. I can't get away from them.
It's like a
All right.
cult of us over here.
All right. VAR, yes or no?
Yes, with stipulations.
You would give us those stipulations.
We were actually talking about this last night watching the game. I think you should, once the referee has to go to the monitor, I think they should have 90 seconds to make a decision.
Ooh, interesting.
I think the more you look at it, the more
have a clock, right? Have a clock on them, maybe, right? Just to see, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, you watched the US game last night, between the two halves, there's 17 minutes of added time.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, but yeah, VAR has been great. I think it's kind of caught, things that, and obviously it's been horrible for some teams. Nobody likes to celebrate and wait for VAR, but I think it's been great to just catch these things that are important that kind of, decide games.
Yeah. What's your take on that new little piece, that new little wrinkle that they're experimenting with now, where they're actually explaining it to the crowd, right? The decision there. What's your take on that?
I thought I was watching an NFL football game last night where she was explaining the call to the crowd. It's interesting. I think it definitely causes more controversy, but at least, if you're going to explain it, I've got no opinion to it, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. I'm still waiting for the day for when the official says the wrong thing, right? God forbid.
Yeah.
So, all right. Book you are currently reading or just recently read?
Oof. I reread Sir Ferguson's leading book. It's something that I always
Hmm.
read going into preseason because just kind of with my path of trying to be a head coach, that man management side and kind of seeing how things were done, and that's something that I just reread.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that. I got that in here somewhere. Yeah, here in the studio. But yeah, as much as I am not a United fan, yeah, definitely. Obviously, you got to if you're a coach, you got to be a Fergie, fan on
Yeah,
some level, right? So for
yeah.
sure. So I got one here that I might recommend for you if you haven't heard of. It's my current read. It's pretty phenomenal, actually.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
that.
yeah, pretty phenomenal. I'm about halfway through it right now,
Yeah,
and great read, especially from that coaching methodology, philosophical perspective, right,
right.
and kind of bringing it back to to the roots, I guess, if you will. Just and I'm just fascinated with how the how the Germans do their particular focus on player and coach development. So
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah, great read. All right, next one. Professional coach. I probably know the answer to this one now, but professional coach you pattern yourself after, if you have one, if there is one, or one that you.
Um. No. This might be a little off the wall one. I'm a big Eddie Howe fan at Newcastle. Believe it or not, I loved him when he was at Bournemouth. I think just his mannerisms. I think he's kind of cool, calm, and collected at all times.
Mhm.
I've really liked Eddie Howe. At one point, I was kind of hoping when, in the 6 times Man United's job has been open since Fergie left, that he was taking it. Um, but yeah, Eddie Howe is one that I like quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, he's done great there, and it just and yeah, there can definitely be open to controversy in terms of who their owners are now. I get it, but it's also I love to see that those Newcastle supporters,
Mhm.
right? Just probably some of the best,
Yeah,
right? Underrated in the country.
yeah,
They're finally kind of getting that what they deserve, I guess.
yeah.
So
Agreed.
yeah. So all right, next one. Current music playlist. What's maybe some songs on that current music playlist?
Um, I'm a bit of a country fan, believe it or not.
Nice.
So Luke Combs, big fan of his. Older Kenny Chesney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so a little bit of stuff like that, a little bit of kind of feel good vibes type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, any sort of country music, I'm always pretty down with. So yeah, uh, not a huge music guy, but if I'm gonna have music on, it's normally
Yeah.
country. I'm more of a bit of a podcast going in the background or something like
There you go. So that's what you got bumping in the car and those long drives in between ID camps, right? So
that. Yeah, something like that.
well, you'll love this next question then. So
Okay.
current podcast playlist.
Ooh, obviously the 50-50 pod is in
There
the
you go. I knew
rotation.
you were a good man. There you go. All
Uh,
right. That
um,
that is redemption for the Manchester United answer, by the way.
that's fair. That's fair. I had to redeem myself a little bit. Modern soccer coach,
Oh yes, yes.
soccer chat. Sean and Nick do great things over there. Great guys. Um,
Sean's in
I've
Sean's in Australia right now with his squad.
Yeah,
You
it's
see that? Yeah,
nuts. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've been telling
Um,
him. I know that I've been telling him. It's like, hey, you guys gotta get back on the ball and start pumping out some more of those episodes. But yeah, yeah, big fans of theirs too.
yeah. Two more that I got. Pat McAfee show. A little bit of all sports. A little bit of comedy in there as well.
Yeah.
And then in the pandemic, as weird as this sounds, I took up a bit of true crime podcasts. So
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
stuff like that, and maybe shouldn't have them on while I'm driving at night, but that's in the rotation as well.
Yeah. I think I don't know now, but I know when I was looking it up, I was looking up the data. This was probably about maybe 3, 4 months ago. True crime are some of the very top, like as a genre, some
Yeah.
of the very best podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Like most, or I shouldn't say very best, but just most listened to, right? A lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
tons and tons of downloads. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of
Like
people listen
during
to.
yeah, during the pandemic, you know, I dived into everything soccer. It was great. But a little after we thought this was just going to last a couple of weeks, and we were in, week or month 5 or 6, and I had to pick up something different. So
Yeah,
true crime was it when I would go for walks with my dogs.
yeah, yeah. So walking at night, listening to true crime with the dog. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, no, I get it. The pandemic, that's what that was kind of what led to the creation, the genesis of this podcast was right
Yeah.
at the peak of the pandemic, right? Same thing.
Wow.
So
Love
yeah,
that.
I got you. Greatest sports movie.
Oof. Mm. All right. Um, I got two. Miracle is one.
Mm,
It's probably one of my favorite sports movies. Um, and then probably Remember the Titans was probably the other one. Two of my
yeah,
best sports movies.
nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of have a three-headed monster for my greatest sports movies. So yeah, I got you. So, and you mentioned one of them there in Miracle. Love Miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so all right, next one here for you. Well, I guess we already established part of this. So favorite and least favorite soccer team.
All right. Besides Man United, I am a big uh, U.S. national team supporter, men's and women's. It's been a diehard thing for me, and
Mhm.
I've died on that stone quite a few times. Um, so though besides Manchester United, the U.S. national team, both men's and women's, and then probably the Mexican national team as the least favorites. Those Dos
Yeah.
Aceros, things like that. The atmosphere, I think that's probably the least favorite. And I might cause a little bit of an uproar, but you know, club wise, definitely Leeds.
Yeah.
Not what you were thinking. Leeds back in the day with the May United
Leeds,
Leeds
really?
rivalries. Yeah,
Wow, Leeds. Yeah. Yeah, it is a little bit of a bummer to see them go down, but hopefully they're back in the league. So,
yeah.
but yeah. All right. Yeah, you got me by surprise a little bit on that one. But yeah, the Mexican national team one, that one's been mentioned a few
Yeah.
times. So
I respect. I like Jurgen Klopp. I like the tactics. I like everything
yeah,
like that. I'm supposed to dislike it, and I'm supposed to dislike City. But the two
right.
managers that do their thing and the type of football that they play, it's very hard to dislike as a
Mhm.
coach.
Yeah, I think as a coach, right, you can view it differently from the standpoint of just it's almost like I don't know. I guess when you look back on it, maybe just the fact that we're in this era where we've been able to see, whether it was Pep versus Mourinho, Pep versus Klopp, right, and
Yeah,
just these amazing rivalries, right? So
yeah.
so yeah, yeah, no doubt. All right. Next one. So this one I love. I always ask this one, right? So and this one maybe you could come back to VAR with this too if you maybe one thing you would change in soccer in America tomorrow, right? If you're appointed the soccer czar in a new
Yeah.
position, right? You're in charge of all soccer, right? Whatever Andrew Green says goes. Very first change you'd make soccer in America tomorrow. What would it be?
As someone who has a 1-year-old that I hope plays soccer one day, the pay to play model and the amount of money that's spent in youth soccer, I think that's something that has to be revisited. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
I think it's something that has to be revisited right away because you look at the money that's spent with these club teams, not even with the travel part, just club dues, right? And
Right.
then you add the travel part on top of it, right? It's just something where you're alienating a good part of the population from this game that's supposed to be for everyone. Um, so I think that's something for me that if I could, I would address. I don't know how to address it. I don't know what
Mhm.
the answer is because there's a lot of clubs that these because of that pay to play model. There's a lot of full time
Mhm.
coaches,
Yeah.
and it's something that we love to do. But
Yeah.
I think whether it's sponsorships, whether it's academies, whether it's the MLS teams forming a full academy and making it open to play, right? Like I think it's something where it just has to be revisited.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sponsorships has a huge play in there somewhere, right?
Mhm.
It's just a matter of how does that even get introduced and affecting a lot of the people, some of the key, I don't know, for lack of better words, gatekeepers that are really cashing in right now.
Yeah.
They're, but and ironically, I'll mention this to you since I'm on here with you, you're a college coach. I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago with someone here at the state level, and one of the things that was brought up is like, hey, aside from until maybe parents insist that they're not maybe chasing a league, right, or they're
Yeah.
not chasing
Oh
a
yeah.
level, but then also they said, I think part of that vicious cycle of everything is I don't it was brought up, they don't know if players and therefore parents won't also chase a particular league, a particular division, if until maybe college coaches stop attending maybe primarily just those events, right?
Yeah.
And you're in a different situation as well, because you talked about that, no, leave no stone unturned, and I
Right.
firmly understand that, having been at the Air Force Academy. So I get that's a different animal altogether. But I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. We can clearly identify the issue, but how do we
Yeah.
tackle these symptoms, right?
Yeah, and like I said, I have a 1-year-old right now who I hope to eventually that if he wants to play soccer, great. And if he wants to, I'm going to try and put him in the best environment that he can be in. But when you look at the fees that come with that, like you're you're making it pretty difficult on parents to put their kids through youth soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the hard part is, right, and we just obviously we're talking about a record inflation period right now, but
Mhm.
those numbers, they never go down, right? They just
No.
continue to go up. That's part of the issue there as well. So,
Yeah.
all right, good one. Any game day superstitions or rituals as a coach, not as a player?
Um, I have a bit of a caffeine problem with coffee. Um, So I'm a big get a coffee in the morning type of person, review the scouting report. Um, I'm kind of someone that likes to go out before all the coaches and set the warm up myself. Um, that's just my time to kind of gather my thoughts. So normally and I'll do that with a coffee in my hand. So yeah, it's normally grab a coffee. It's in Lexington. It's normally from one of the same places every game day. On the road, it kind of varies depending on where the hotel is. Um, so yeah, grab a coffee, and I like to be the one that sets the warm up by myself, kind of gather my thoughts and things like that. So yeah, those are my two rituals that I have before every game.
Now, what's the coffee technique? Are you slamming this thing down in like 5 minutes, or do you take your time and it takes you like on half an hour, 45 minutes to drink a cup of coffee? How do you handle this?
Um, in preseason, it'll probably be the slamming type because it's 12, 15-hour days. But on game day, it's normally, I'm someone that likes to enjoy my coffee, 30 minutes or so, kind of, I'll probably have it until our team meeting before the game. So, and I'm pretty much a straight up black coffee drinker.
Mhm.
So it's pretty old and boring, but it's just something that kind of gets me at peace before every game.
Yeah, yeah. All right, next one here for you. Most recent binge watch. Netflix, video, Hulu, whatever, most recent one.
Yeah, yeah. So my wife and I are massive Ted Lasso fans.
There
For
you go.
someone who played volleyball in college and did not know anything about soccer, it's kind of she's kind of seen past the soccer side of Ted Lasso. So we waited until the whole season 3 came out. Like I'm not one person who could wait to watch one episode every week.
I hate that
Um,
Apple does that, yeah.
so we spent 2 nights binge watching the whole season 3 of Ted
Oh,
Lasso.
yeah. Final takeaways, is it obviously, it was very different and, from season 1, but, without any spoiler alerts, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite good.
Yeah.
They do a really good job with that show and the lead up, and being able to put current events into things and to kind of make it more than just soccer. Um, without spoiling it, the ending did kind of leave me a little wondering what's next, if
Mhm.
anything. But yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, great stuff. I'm in the middle of watching 2 right now.
Okay.
Also on Apple, Hijack with Idris Elba. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
had a chance to see
Yeah. We
that one.
haven't watched that yet. That's on
Yeah,
our
yeah,
list.
yeah. Like, I'm still kind of coming around on that one. And then, I'm about 5 episodes into, the Quarterback on Netflix. Really good,
Gotcha.
really good,
Gotcha.
really good. So, yeah.
I'm normally a big person that saves seasons for our bus rides.
Yeah,
Like when Outer Banks came out and everyone knew everything, like I was watching 1 or 2 episodes a time on the bus,
yeah,
and everybody knew what happened. And I was like, just don't tell me. I'll put my headphones in. Just don't.
yeah. Yeah, I tend to consume mine more during, obviously, the off season, right? The summer and in the fall here, because once I'm in season, ironically, once I'm in season, I usually only can watch 1 episode here,
Yeah,
and the next episode maybe 2 weeks later. So, yeah. So,
yeah.
but yeah, no, I gotcha. All right. In 3 words, why do you coach? 3 words or less.
Um, I can give it to you in one word: relationships. I
There you
really like
go.
the relationships that I have with our players, relationships that I get with our coaches, our staff, and working camps. And, like for me, I'm a big relationship person. I want to be there for you, I want to be involved in what you're doing as long as you want me involved. Um, so I'm a big relationships type of person, and, like to be involved in any and help in any way that I can. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Very well said. All right, final one here, coach. All right, everything you've learned over the years, right? 10 plus years of coaching, your coaching development piece. If you could go back and coach the player that was you, how would you have coached you?
Oh, I would have to deal with a bit of hot headedness. Um, Yeah, I think just looking back at how I was as a player, it's just kind of teaching that kind of calming down mentality. I was a big person who got up for games. I was a big emotional player. So it's kind of being able to control those emotions at time. I was more of a ball winning center back type person. So
Mm,
kind of had to jack myself up a little bit to go running into people. So like just being able to coach the emotional side of the game, not taking dumb fouls, not putting in stupid tackles at times.
right.
So just kind of finding that emotional side that, as a player, I didn't know. I found out really quickly after coaching that, now that if I hop into games, which is very rarely, I am a much better player now after coaching than I am when I was a player.
Isn't it amazing how that works? It's amazing how that works, right? So,
Like the legs don't work anymore, but
but the wisdom,
my
right? The wisdom,
yeah,
right?
my mind. I actually have a tactical mind now.
Your coach would be so proud. Great stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Got a question in here for you, coach. Actually,
yeah,
this one, I don't know how much it'll pertain to you, but want to go
yeah,
ahead and share it. This one's in from GZDR4EB.
yeah.
With NIL deals, does it put more pressure on you to play those players if they have bad practices, or even to cut those players? Yeah.
I think I think this would definitely be a football question. I think at soccer,
Yeah.
the NIL deals are so small that it's not even.
Right. Yeah.
You're looking at very local things, very small NIL deals. Like we had a player last year who had an NIL deal with a local smoothie place, right? And it's
Mhm.
just promoting it on social media. So I think for us in soccer, no, like I said, with this and the transfer portal, like I'm a big believer in if I recruited you, I'm responsible for developing you.
Yeah.
So like I don't cut players, I don't ask players to leave our program. If you want to leave, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to ask you to leave.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, well said. That's
yeah,
yeah, it's a good, I mean, and I think that's important. It's kind of why I put that up there. Great
yeah.
question, by the way. But I think it's important for maybe for players and for parents alike to hear that these, these NIL deals, they're not exactly career builders, right? Necessarily,
Yeah, not in
especially
our
with the most
sport.
part. Yeah. Awesome. He is Andrew Green, the associate head women's soccer coach of the VMI Keydets. Coach, this has been great. Have loved having you on here. Um, this is it's been a minute now for us. I think it's been about 3 weeks since we've had an episode, at least probably 3 weeks. So it's great
Gotcha.
to have you on here. you know um we know you're excited in the coming days for your upcoming season. So we're wishing you nothing but the absolute best. And this is our final part of the podcast here, our stoppage time, where you kind of get to give any final thoughts as it relates to the game stuff that's going on. Thank yous, shout outs, whatever you want to share. The floor is yours.
Yeah, obviously, Hector, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Anytime that I can get out and promote VMI and promote the great things that our student athletes do, I absolutely love it because they are some incredible human beings, right? I told them in the fall, like they asked, who do I look up to at times? The adversity that you guys face. You guys are the reason why I keep doing this, right? So, but yeah, obviously with the fall upcoming, really excited for 2023, and I think the potential of our group is really really exciting, obviously, for our staff. So yeah, again, thanks for having me on. This has been fantastic. Anytime that I can get out and talk and promote the women's game and talk about recruiting and talk about our school and you know yeah, I think that about does it.
Great stuff, Coach. We wish you the absolute best. Now, before we forget, for our people that are listening on the audio, or will hear this later on the audio podcast portion, where can they go to find you? Where can they go to get more information on VMI as well?
Yeah, so I'm on all platforms. Maybe not this new Threads thing yet, but I haven't figured that out yet. But Instagram, Twitter. You can DM me any questions at Coach Greener, Greener. VMI. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram at VMI WSOC. You can all see it right away. Yeah, you can follow on with what we're doing this fall. And, obviously if any coaches or any athletes, within the NCAA rules, obviously want to reach out and can ask me a question and I can help in any way. I think that'd be great. And obviously for coaches that want to reach out, I've had a lot of great coaches that have helped me along this journey, and it's always great to pay it forward. So if I can help anyone out, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, no, great stuff. And you got to let us know next time you'll be in Texas. Definitely when you're in the greater San Antonio area. Love to link up and talk some more. So definitely anything we can do to help you out along the way, don't hesitate. This has been great, Coach. Thank you again. And for our listeners, for our supporters, thank you again for your continued support as we continue to, we're in the middle of launching. We just launched our newsletter, so please go. You can go and sign up for that. But you can also, we're still working in very, very early stages of our website. Hopefully more to come on that in the coming weeks. But again, you can find us on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Go on there, subscribe, sign up for notifications, and you'll get a notification anytime we go live. You can also find us on Twitter and Twitch at 50_50 pod, as well as on Instagram at 50_50 podcast. So, to Andrew Green, the Associate Head Women's Soccer Coach of VMI, thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time. To all our supporters and our listeners, as we always say, you're the reason why we do it. So until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by National Scouting Report. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time,